Yesterday, Micah Parsons, in his press conference, shared many different things that were on his mind. And I thought Rob Demovsky of ESPN did a good job sort of summing it up. So I'm going to just read this here and get to one of Micah Parsons' quotes. Rob Demovsky says, Micah Parsons hates the tush push, thinks offensive players get away with holding far too often, and had to change his face mask during the last game because he got poked in an eye and popped a blood vessel on a play that didn't draw a penalty. And the Green Bay Packers defensive end said it all, knowing that it could come back to haunt him, both when his team plays the Philadelphia Eagles next month and when the NFL hears his comments. Though Parsons said Thursday that he doesn't think the NFL will do anything about the situation, Packers coach Matt LaFleur said he plans to at least talk to the officials before Sunday's game at the Arizona Cardinals about what he perceives as missed holding calls. Here's a quote from LaFleur. That's definitely a conversation pregame, LaFleur said. LaFleur said earlier in the week that he believes Parsons is frustrated by it, and there are some that are egregious, and I think those need to be called. It doesn't sound as if Parsons believes much will change. And here we have from Parsons. No, I don't think it matters, Parsons said. The refs are going to call what they call. All we can do is just hope we get called a fair game. I don't care what the fans want sometimes. If your team holds, they should get better tackles, better guards, bleep. Don't blame that on us. And then Parsons continues, like 5 years of not getting a call, you eventually stop worrying about it, Parsons said. I think I've just got to keep going. That's the hunt. Yeah, that's part of the challenges. You've got to keep going, and that's bothersome. That worries them. They know that. That's the part of being one of the best. That comes with some territory, parts that you hate, and the parts that the league lets go. They know you can tell how they call games. They don't call offsides for offense, but they'll call it on defense. They won't call offensive pass interference, but they'll call defensive pass interference. We know what they're trying to do. They want to load the points up so fans can be happy. They'll call defensive holding, but they won't call offensive holding. Let's just wake up. And so there we have Micah Parsons just totally unleashing his honest thoughts about this entire situation, the different holds he's experienced, and how he's been dealing with this for a lot of his time in the NFL. And I feel like there's not a lot of players who really can. I mean, anyone can come out and say this kind of stuff, but I think that people really focus on it when it's someone at the caliber of Micah Parsons, where, he's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. And I do think that him bringing this to light, it could potentially change the way he's getting called, because now with everyone focusing on this, which there's already been a lot of problems, there's so many, images you see floating around of Micah Parsons getting grabbed around the neck, no call. That has to be frustrating if you're Parsons, if you're beating these guys and they're, doing something that's not even, legal, and then the refs aren't sort of helping you out in any type of way. That has to be frustrating. And so LaFleur brought it up. He said he's going to bring it up to the refs, and then Micah Parsons brings it up. And so I just wonder if, with all of the added eyes on this situation, if we'll see some of these get called, and, maybe we'll see the offensive linemen with their awareness of this. Either maybe they'll, try to do it less because now that the all eyes could be on them this weekend, or maybe nothing changes and Micah Parsons, as he discussed, the refs and the league at least wants higher scoring points, and he seems to think that could be one of the reasons that they're not calling penalties as much on the offense, which is an interesting theory. And so I have no problem with Micah Parsons sort of airing out his thoughts. He's just being honest about what he thinks is going on. And I think that for this Packers defense, this defensive line, they've been one of the most, consistent units in the NFL. They're dealing with some injuries right now. But if the Packers start getting, a couple more holding calls on Parsons, one holding call totally shifts the outcome of a game. Because with so many NFL games coming down to 3 points, 7 points, one score games, one drive where a team, instead of it being 2nd and 10, 2nd and 20, that's such an advantage to the defense. And so Micah Parsons in this interview shared that he thought he probably got 2 to 3, really egregious holding penalties not called on him. And if those were to be called, that's 3 major drive shifters. So I'm going to be curious this Sunday to see if anything changes here, or if it sort of just continues as is. Maybe the league will, and the refs there will be more, because there's more eyes on them, maybe it does cause them to sort of be more vigilant in calling these type of penalties. I don't know. We'll see what happens here, but clearly Matt LaFleur doesn't like what he's seeing. Micah Parsons also doesn't like what he's seeing. If you like more NFL content, Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.